Pro-revenge. My coworker got me fired after 8 years. I waited 6 months and then destroyed her career with one phone call. My name is Jessica. I am 37 years old. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and 6 months ago I made a phone call that lasted 11 minutes and ended the career of a woman who had spent 8 months believing she had gotten away with destroying mine. I want to be clear about something before I start. I do not consider myself a vengeful person. I had never in my life gone out of my way to harm someone who had harmed me. I had always believed that living well was the best response to being wronged, and that the energy required for deliberate revenge was better spent on something constructive. I believed this sincerely for 36 years. Then I met Karen. I had worked at my company, a mid-size healthcare technology firm in Atlanta, for 8 years when Karen was hired as a senior project manager. She was brought in from outside, a lateral hire at my level, and she was immediately impressive in the way that dangerous people sometimes are: sharp, articulate, socially fluent, the kind of person who identified power structures in a new environment within days and positioned herself within them expertly. Karen and I were not in direct competition initially. We managed different product lines and had different client portfolios, and there was enough space in the organization for both of us to operate without friction. For the first 4 months, I thought she was a good addition to the team. I told my manager that I found her professional and easy to work with. I meant it. I found out what Karen actually was in the 7th month. My company was going through a reorganization that involved consolidating 2 product divisions, mine and Karen's, into a single unit under one manager. There was one senior manager position available. Karen and I were both candidates. I had 8 years of institutional knowledge, a strong track record, and relationships with every major client in the combined division. Karen had 4 months of employment and an impressive resume from her previous company. I was not worried. I should have been. Karen spent 6 weeks before the decision was made doing something I did not know was happening until it was over. She was systematically collecting information from colleagues, from old emails she had access to as a project manager, from conversations she had cultivated, and building a dossier of every mistake, every judgment call, every moment of ordinary human imperfection from my 8-year career at the company. She packaged this into a formal complaint to HR that alleged I had created a hostile work environment, had taken credit for team members' work, and had made statements to clients that misrepresented the company's capabilities. Every allegation was either distorted, fabricated, or stripped of the context that would have made them understandable. The complaint was timed to land on HR's desk 2 weeks before the promotion decision. I was called into HR on a Tuesday morning. I had no idea what was coming. The HR manager, a woman named Patricia who I had known for 5 years, and who looked deeply uncomfortable during the entire meeting, walked me through the allegations and told me the company was required to conduct an investigation. I was placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. The investigation took 6 weeks. During those 6 weeks, Karen was appointed interim senior manager of the combined division. When the investigation concluded, I was told that while several of the specific allegations had not been substantiated, the overall pattern of conduct described had raised sufficient concern that the company did not feel it could return me to a leadership position. I was offered a lateral transfer to a different division at my current salary, or a severance package. I took the severance. I was not going to work for a company that had done what they had done. I spent the first month being furious and devastated in equal measure. Then I spent the second month being only furious. Then somewhere in the third month the fury clarified into something colder and more useful. I started documenting. Not for litigation. My attorney had reviewed my options and the case was viable but not strong enough to be certain, and I did not want to spend 2 years in legal proceedings. I documented because documentation had always been Karen's tool, and I had watched it work, and I understood its power. I reached out carefully to former colleagues, people I trusted, people who had seen what Karen had done, people who had their own observations and concerns. 3 of them agreed to speak with me honestly. What they told me built a picture of Karen's methodology that was more complete than I had previously understood. She had done this before. Not at our company, at her previous employer, a healthcare software firm in Charlotte, where she had used a similar approach to advance over a colleague who had then left the company. I found that former colleague, Her name was Michelle, and she lived in Charlotte, and she answered my call on the second ring like she had been waiting for someone to make it. We talked for 2 hours. Michelle had documented everything from her own experience with Karen, and had done nothing with it, because she had not known what to do with it, and because there had been no one to tell. There was now someone to tell. Karen had applied for a position at a major healthcare technology company, one of the largest in the Southeast, 6 months after taking the senior manager role. I knew this because one of my former colleagues had seen her LinkedIn activity and had told me. The new company was in the process of reference checking. I called the hiring manager. I did not lie. I did not exaggerate. I told him I had worked alongside Karen, and that I had information about her professional conduct that I believed was relevant to his hiring decision, and that I wanted to share it factually and let him draw his own conclusions. I walked him through what I had observed directly. I told him about Michelle, and gave him her contact information. I answered his questions for 11 minutes, and then I thanked him for his time, and I hung up. Karen did not get the job. 3 weeks later, she was removed from the senior manager position at our former company. I do not know all the details of why. I know that the HR investigation that had been used against me had generated documentation that cut both ways, and that when the company began looking more carefully at what had actually happened, my departure looked different than it had initially. My former colleagues have told me that Karen left the company voluntarily, before any formal action was taken. She is currently not employed in the healthcare technology sector in Atlanta as far as anyone is aware. I have a new job. I found it through a referral from a client who had always valued my work, and who called me 4 months after I left to tell me about an opening at his new company. I started 3 months ago. My manager is straightforward and fair. My colleagues are professional. I go to work every day and I do my job, and I do not think about Karen very often. When I do think about her, I think about the 11-minute phone call, and I feel something that is not quite satisfaction but is close to it. I told only the truth. I simply told it to the right person at the right time. Update: 3 months later. Michelle called me last month. She had been contacted by Karen through LinkedIn. A message that Michelle described as a strange mixture of accusation and appeal. Karen had apparently pieced together that Michelle and I had spoken, and that our conversation had contributed to her professional difficulties. Michelle asked me what she should do. I told her she did not owe Karen a response, and that the truth we had both told was not something either of us needed to defend. Michelle did not respond to Karen's message. I have not heard from Karen directly. I do not expect to. My new job has gone well enough that I have already been given additional responsibilities. My manager told me last week that she was glad I had joined the team. I told her I was glad too, and meant it more than she knew. So Reddit. Was I wrong to call that hiring manager? Was I wrong to use Karen's own methodology against her? Because some people say I should have moved on and let the universe handle it. But the universe needed a little help. And I only told the truth. AITA, my mommy influencer sister, used my kids in her content for 2 years without permission. I sued her and she lost everything. My name is Rachel. I am 34 years old. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And 18 months ago I did something that split my family completely in half and generated more strong opinions from strangers on the internet than anything else in my life. I filed a lawsuit against my sister for using my children in her social media content without my consent for 2 years and profiting from it. My sister's name is Ashley. She is 38 and she has been a lifestyle and parenting influencer for 5 years. At her peak, she had approximately 340,000 followers on Instagram, and a smaller, but engaged YouTube audience. She worked with brand partners regularly: baby products, family subscription boxes, children's clothing, the usual ecosystem of family content monetization. She made real money from it. Enough to make it her primary income. Enough to make it worth protecting. Ashley had always been close to my children, my son Jacob, who is now 8, and my daughter Emma, who is now 6. She was their aunt. She was present in their lives. She visited regularly and the kids adored her. When Ashley's content career was growing, I was supportive. I attended her brand events when she invited me. I congratulated her on milestones. I was genuinely happy for her success. What I did not know, or more accurately what I did not realize the full scope of, was that Ashley had been featuring Jacob and Emma in her content with a regularity and visibility that went significantly beyond what I had implicitly approved through my general comfort with her presence in our lives. I found out the full extent of it when a colleague of mine sent me a link to a brand-sponsored post Ashley had done for a children's vitamin company. The post featured Emma prominently, close shots of her face, her name, a story about her picky eating habits that Ashley had clearly learned from our private family conversations. The post had significant engagement and was clearly part of a paid campaign. I had not given permission for this specific post. I had not given permission for Emma's name to be used publicly. I had not been told about the campaign. I went back through Ashley's content, 2 years of it, systematically. What I found was that Jacob and Emma appeared in approximately 340 posts across platforms, some briefly, some prominently, some with their names, some with personal details drawn from family conversations I had had with Ashley in private. Several posts had been part of paid brand campaigns. I had been told about approximately 40 of those posts and had given general approval. The remaining 300 I had not known about. My children's faces, names, and personal details had been used as content assets in a monetized influencer business without my knowledge or formal consent. I consulted an attorney. His name was Mark, and he specialized in digital rights and privacy law, and he was familiar with the emerging legal landscape around children and influencer content. He told me that the legal framework in this area was still developing, but that Arizona had consumer protection statutes that were potentially applicable, that the use of minors in commercial content without explicit parental consent was actionable, and that the earnings associated with content featuring my children without consent represented a quantifiable financial claim. I sent Ashley a formal letter through Mark requesting that all content featuring Jacob and Emma be removed from her platforms, that she provide a full accounting of earnings from sponsored posts in which they appeared, and that we discuss compensation. Ashley called me within an hour of receiving the letter. She was not apologetic. She told me I was being absurd, that she was their aunt, that I had always been fine with her taking photos of the kids, that there was no meaningful difference between family photos and her content, and that I was trying to destroy her career out of jealousy. The jealousy accusation was not new. Ashley had used it as an explanation for any friction between us for as long as I could remember. I told her I was not jealous of her, and that she had 48 hours to respond formally to Mark's letter. She did not respond formally. She posted about it instead. A vague but clearly targeted story on her Instagram about family members who tried to capitalize on your success, and being stabbed in the back by people who should know better. Her audience, who did not know the details, responded with significant support for Ashley and significant hostility toward the unnamed backstabber. I filed suit. The lawsuit took 14 months. Ashley's attorney argued that my general approval of Ashley's presence in our family's life constituted implicit consent to content creation. Mark argued that implicit consent to a family relationship does not extend to commercial use of minors in monetized influencer content, and that the earnings from such content without explicit consent were improperly obtained. Expert witnesses testified about industry standards for family content and consent practices. The court found in my favor on the central claims. Ashley was ordered to remove all content featuring Jacob and Emma, to provide the financial accounting we had requested, and to pay damages that the court calculated based on a portion of the earnings from the commercially sponsored content in which my children had appeared without my documented consent. The damages were not enormous. The legal framework is still developing and the court was conservative in its calculation, but they were significant enough that combined with Ashley's legal fees and the disruption to her brand partnerships during the lawsuit period, her influencer career did not survive it. Several major brand partners had quietly ended their relationships with her during the proceedings. Her follower count declined significantly as the lawsuit became public knowledge. She has not posted regularly in 8 months. My family is divided. My mother thinks I should have handled it privately. My father has not spoken to me since the verdict. Ashley has not spoken to me directly. All communication goes through attorneys on outstanding matters. Jacob and Emma do not fully understand what happened. They know Aunt Ashley is not coming to visit right now. Emma asked about her once and I told her that grown-up things were happening that were being worked out. Emma said okay and went back to her drawing. Update 4 months later. Ashley reached out 2 months ago through my mother. She did not reach out directly. She asked my mother to ask me if I would be willing to talk. I told my mother I would consider it. I am still considering it. I know that sounds like avoidance, and it probably is partially, but it is also genuine. I am not sure what a conversation with Ashley would give either of us right now, and I am protective of my own stability and my children's stability in a way that makes me careful about what I open. My mother told me that Ashley has taken down all of her social media accounts. Not just the content featuring my kids, all of it. I do not know what to make of that. My mother seemed to want me to see it as meaningful. Maybe it is. Jacob asked me last week if we could visit Grandma soon. I said yes. Grandma's house is not Ashley's house, and I am not going to let what happened between adults take my children away from their grandmother. We are going next month. I run 4 miles every morning. My kids are doing well in school. My husband and I are solid. These are the things that matter, and they are intact. So Reddit, was I wrong to sue my own sister instead of handling it privately? Because my mother says I destroyed Ashley's career over family photos. But my children's faces were used in commercial campaigns without my permission for 2 years. Tell me where the line was. Seuss Reddit stories. My husband confessed something on our 10th anniversary that rewrote the entire history of our marriage. My name is Linda. I am 43 years old. I live in Seattle, Washington, and 14 months ago my husband of 10 years sat across from me at a restaurant on our anniversary and told me something that I have spent every day since trying to figure out how to live with. He did not confess an affair. He did not confess a financial betrayal. He did not confess a secret family or a hidden debt. What he confessed was something I had not considered as a possibility, and that turned out to be more disorienting than any of those things would have been, because those things I would have known how to respond to. My husband's name is Michael. We met when we were both 32 at a work conference. He was a structural engineer, quiet and precise, the kind of man who thought carefully before he spoke, and who meant what he said when he said it. I had found that quality attractive in a world full of people who said things casually and meant them approximately. We dated for 2 years and were married on a Saturday in October 10 years ago in a ceremony that I remember as one of the best days of my life. Our marriage had been good. Not perfect. I want to be honest about that. No marriage is perfect, and ours had its difficult seasons, but genuinely good in the ways that matter. We were kind to each other. We were present for each other. We had built a life together that felt real and chosen and mutual. I had never had serious reason to doubt the foundation of what we had. Michael asked me to go to dinner for our anniversary. A nice restaurant, the kind of place we reserved for occasions, which was appropriate. We had a good dinner. We talked about the past 10 years. We talked about what we wanted for the next 10. It was warm and honest and felt like exactly the kind of conversation a 10th anniversary should contain. Then over dessert Michael said he needed to tell me something he should have told me a long time ago. He told me that when we met at that conference he had known who I was. Not casually. Not in the way that people at conferences sometimes recognize names or faces from professional circles. He had known specifically who I was because he had sought me out. He had researched the attendee list before the conference, found my name and my work, read everything publicly available about me, and had positioned himself at the conference specifically to meet me. I sat with that for a moment. It was strange but not alarming on its own. People network deliberately at conferences. People research attendees. It was not necessarily concerning. Then he told me why he had sought me out. 10 years before we met, I had been involved in a professional dispute with a colleague at a previous company. The dispute had been significant. It had involved a project I had led, a decision I had made that my colleague had publicly disagreed with, and a professional conflict that had been difficult and unpleasant, and that I had moved past over the years. Michael had known my colleague. They had not been close, but they had been in the same professional network. And in the period after the dispute, my former colleague had said things about me, to mutual contacts in professional settings, that had painted me in a negative light. Michael had heard those things. He had formed an impression of me based on what his colleague had said. An impression that was not flattering. And when he encountered my name on a conference attendee list 2 years later, he had decided he wanted to meet me. Not to confront me, Not for any hostile purpose. He said he had been curious. He had wanted to see if the person described by his colleague matched the person he would find in reality. He found someone completely different from what he had been led to expect. He found me, and what he found led to 2 years of dating and 10 years of marriage. I sat across from my husband at our anniversary dinner, and I processed what he was telling me. He had come to meet me with a preformed negative impression. He had not told me this at any point in 12 years. He was telling me now, on our 10th anniversary, because he said he had been carrying it, and that carrying it had started to feel dishonest in a way he could no longer maintain. I asked him why he had not told me sooner. He said he had tried several times over the years, and had not been able to find the right way to say it. He said he had been afraid of how I would respond. He said the longer it went, the more impossible it felt to introduce. I asked him what exactly his colleague had said. He told me. The things his colleague had said were unfair distortions of a professional conflict that had been complex, and that I had handled imperfectly but not dishonestly. Hearing them from my husband's mouth 12 years after the fact was a surreal experience. I told Michael I needed time to think. He said he understood. We drove home from our anniversary dinner largely in silence. I spent 2 weeks thinking. What I was sitting with was not betrayal in the conventional sense. Michael had not done anything wrong exactly. He had come to a conference with a negative impression, and had updated that impression through actual experience, and had built a life with me on the basis of who I actually was. The deception, if it was a deception, was one of omission, not action. He had not lied to me. He had simply not told me the complete story of how we met. But the not telling had lasted 12 years. And knowing it changed the texture of the origin story I had been carrying. The story of two people who had met by coincidence at a conference, and had recognized something in each other. That story was still true in its important elements, but it was not complete, and incompleteness in origin stories is its own particular discomfort. My therapist asked me a useful question. She asked me whether what Michael had told me changed anything about the 12 years that had followed. I sat with that question for a long time. The honest answer was no. The 12 years were the 12 years regardless of what had preceded them. The marriage I had lived was the marriage I had lived. Michael had been the person I had known him to be. What had changed was the way I understood the beginning. And the beginning matters because it is where we decide that something is worth building. I told Michael I was not leaving. I told him I was angry, not furiously, not in a way I could not manage, but genuinely and specifically angry that he had carried this for 12 years, and had not trusted me with it sooner. I told him the anger was going to take time to work through. He said he understood, and that he would wait. We are in therapy. We are building what our therapist calls a fuller honesty. A version of our relationship that contains the complete history rather than the curated one. It is uncomfortable work. It is also, I think, the right work. Update 5 months later. I contacted my former colleague. I know this seems like a tangent, but it felt necessary. I had spent months knowing that this person had said things about me that had shaped the first impression of the man I married, and I wanted to close that loop in some way. We had coffee. It was awkward and careful. He acknowledged that the things he had said after our professional dispute had not been fair representations of what had happened. He did not fully apologize, but he said enough that I was able to put it somewhere. Michael and I went back to the same restaurant for a dinner 2 months ago. Not our anniversary, just a Tuesday. We sat at the same table. We had a good dinner. We talked about ordinary things. At the end of the dinner, Michael reached across the table and held my hand and said, "I should have told you sooner." I said yes. Then I held his hand back. We are okay. Not the same as before. I do not think we will be exactly the same as before, and I am not sure that is a bad thing. We are more honest. We are more careful with each other in the way of people who understand that the things you do not say can carry as much weight as the things you do. I am still working on the origin story. I think I will be working on it for a while. But the 12 years that followed it are mine, and they are real, and I am not letting go of them. So Reddit. Was Michael wrong to wait 10 years to tell me? Was I wrong to stay? Because some people say the omission was a betrayal, and some people say it was just a man who was afraid and told the truth eventually. I have been trying to decide which of those is closer to correct for 14 months, and I do not have a clean answer yet. Tell me what you think.